Pressing your seams is really important and it does make a difference. I always say that I forget while I'm filming myself, but I shouldn't. I'm trying not to. I think I'm getting a bit better at it. So what about you? Do you always press your seams or do you forget? And the first thing, of course, is to understand your iron. This one is a Ultra Gliss Primo 26 from Tefal. It's an iron that was at my mother's house and she wasn't using it, so I brought it up to my sewing room. This one is a steam iron. It's quite useful. It makes pressing your seams easier, but if you have one of the older ones without steam, it's also useful because they are heavy. The heavier your iron, the better, because it helps you press better. And the settings are all the same because it depends on the fabric you're going to iron, from low heat for polyester to the most heat you need is for linen, to get all the wrinkles out. So this is quite useful to have. And before this, I used to sew when I didn't have the YouTube channel and I sew a bit less, well, a lot less. I still have my traveling one. I bought this for this use in particular, and it's only a cheap one. It has steam and everything, but it only has 3 settings: low, medium and high. But it's still useful as well because it's light and it's quite small. And to make all this process easier, there are accessories you can add to your sewing room to help you press your seams. For example, all the pressing cushions that make this a lot better. These are lovely. They are filled in with sawdust. I'm so happy I made them. I've used them loads and they're really easy to use because they adapt themselves to the seam you want to press. They are filled in with sawdust. I love the way they smell. And another thing I rescued not long ago is this little ironing board for sleeves. It's quite useful to have as well. I just put some wadding on top and some cotton because the other cover was all rotten. And that's another important thing. The fabric you use to press your seams on, it must be something you are sure is not going to dye your clothes, so you're not ruining them. That happened to me once. The cloth I was ironing on had this blue dye and it ruined something I was sewing. I don't remember what it was, but it was a pity. Of course, when we're talking about pressing seams open, we're talking about the inside of the garment. But if we needed to press something on the outside, on the right side of the garment, it's a must to use a bit of cloth, a bit of material we are sure is not going to dye and is going to protect that right side of our material. For example, this was a bit of the glue from the interfacing I was using for a neckline, and luckily it got stuck on this cloth and not on the garment. I don't know why it went purple or red, but it would have ruined the shirt. This cloth is a piece of old bedding and that's ideal because it's really soft due to all the washing it's been in, and that means that your heat goes right in your garment. If you do that with a thicker material, it'd be much harder. And all this pressing business is extremely important. Take into account you've bought material, you are making it yourself and investing your time and your effort, and this is something you do because you love it. It's not something you do if you don't like it. So take your time and press your seams because it really makes a difference. I've done it badly for long enough, and now I want to change that because you can really tell when a garment has been pressed during the whole process and when it hasn't. And how to press your seams? You press your seams open because the main rule is that you don't want anything bulky. So when you want to add another panel, this open seam makes it easier to sew. And another rule is that you want everything away from the center. If you have darts or any pleats, you want them away from your face. So if you have darts on your neckline, you want them down to the sides, the same as that on your bust. You want them down to your waist, and if you have darts that go from the bust to your waist, you want them to the sides. And of course we have to take into account the type of seam we are sewing. If we're going to sew, for example, a top stitch and the two panels go to one side, we are going to press it onto that side. Of course the same goes with curved seams. You're going to make some cuts to make this easier, not only to sew but to press. And you can even use your iron to press your hem before sewing it. That way you make sure it's perfectly neat. I've never done this, I should try. Another important thing is how you do it. It's called pressing your seams and not ironing your seams, because you're not ironing like when you're at home. You are pressing your seams open, so you need to put some pressure on them and be really patient. And of course there are other accessories that look really good. I've been recommended the tailor's clapper. Apparently, well, it's a piece of wood that elongates this heat process, this pressing process, and it's really good apparently for thicker materials. You press your seam and then you press with this wood on top, and this makes it go really flat. It looks really good. Another thing is that apparently there is an iron without a cable, without a cord. So that's interesting because you can go all around the sewing room with that in hand. And another thing is the little roll people use to press seams. I'm not sure if it's as effective as the heat of your iron, but it looks good as well.
Let me know down in the comments what you think.
And these are my conclusions about how to press your seams and iron your garments in your sewing room. Of course, I'm not an expert. Leave down in the comments anything you want to add or correct. And don't forget to subscribe if you're not already. I upload a video every week, so that way you don't miss anything if you like this kind of content, and give it a like, of course, as well. And don't go just yet. I'll leave you here 2 videos about the pressing cushions and about the little ironing board for sleeves. See you around.